Alrighty. So first of all, happy New Year to everyone, and hope everyone had a great New Year. As the calendar have now turned to 2025, and usually when I do the first video of the new year on this channel, it's obviously going to be the New Year wishes and resolution, looking at every MLS team, and this year is no exception. We're once again doing the kind of video where we're gonna now look at 30 MLS team. Yes, 30 now, because San Diego came into the league this season. Of what are their New Year wishes and kind of resolution in terms of what each fan base and certainly each team wants to accomplish. And don't worry, I'm not gonna just simply mention MLS Cup, because I think that's pretty much every team's wishes and resolution coming into the new season. I'm definitely gonna go a little bit more deeper and not just be a little bit generic with some of these wishes. Though there are some teams that it might get to that, because some of these teams it's pretty easy to see what their wishes and New Year resolution is. But with that being said, let us begin. We're going alphabetical order, starting with Atlanta United. Their New Year wishes and resolution: rebuild and compete. And what that means is that, when you look at the squad that they had, well, they had that incredible run that they had last season. It is no doubt that heading into this season, they need to continue to build on that. And with the way that Chris Henderson now joins the team, it feels like we're seeing the Seattle Sounders reunite and happening in the front office with Chris Henderson and Garth Lager reunite with each other. Something tells me they're going to try to build their vision similar to what they did with the Sounders all those years, and that's definitely good news for Atlanta, and especially with this team. They've always been very active when it comes to the transfer window. We're already hearing some rumors that of some of the players that they might sign. They hope that might be the right piece to get them back to where they should be, which is always a team that should be competing near the top tier of the Eastern Conference. For Austin, their New Year wishes is definitely find consistency. So consistency was a problem last season for Austin. I mean, last season Austin basically just kind of had his season where it kind of sums up their first 3 years in MLS. There's times where they 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 look good, and then there's times where it was a reminiscent of what we saw in year two of them pulling off a victory unexpectedly with and show that resiliency. And then there's time we saw what we saw in year one and year three, which was an absolute garbage team. Watching a team that looked like a wooden spoon content. And there's no doubt that consistency will be something that Austin will be hoping that they would get, and hopefully they won't have like those roller coaster right as what we saw last season as well. For Charlotte, their wishes is definitely a better attack. I mean, it's pretty clear that we saw last season for Charlotte. What made them great, obviously, is their defense, but there's no doubt that they need some attacking help. And if you just kind of look at general position in terms of their New Year wishes that Charlotte needs, obviously a creative number 10. I mean, they're desperately looking for that, and even a winger as well. But there's no doubt that they would absolutely look for an attack, because they know that if they can find a good attack and able to score some goals, this team is going to be a dangerous team once again with how good their defense was last season. For Chicago, this is where I'm kind of had to be a little bit generic. I mean, I know I said I wasn't going to be generic, but I'm going to have to say that it's simply just get into the playoffs. Like, I think it's pretty clear that for the past couple of years, that's been the Fire fans' New Year wishes of this team make it to the playoffs. They have the longest active playoff drought out of any team, and every single season it feels like it just kind of plays the same thing. They're stuck in that miserable cycle that they in, not just in the last couple of years, but really in the past decades or so. But with this new regime and this new era, and with Greg Berhalter taking charge, they hope that this maybe finally be the time that they make it to the playoffs, and I hope so too. I've said it many times about the Chicago Fire. I think if there's no one team, I think that definitely I want to see them to make it to the playoffs. Heck, ever since I started covering MLS on this channel, I don't think I've ever talked about the Chicago Fire being in the playoffs. That's how miserable it's been for this franchise going now pretty much over a decade, with them only have like what, two playoff appearances that is. For Cincinnati, their New Year wishes is to get healthy. I mean, we know what happened last season. The injury bug definitely was a big problem for this team. There's no doubt that they're looking to try to get healthy. Now, if I want to sneak in another wishes for Cincinnati, obviously they're hoping they can get a good number 9, and they spent a low of money of getting that. They hope that he might be the answer, and you probably know who I'm talking to if you're a Cincinnati fan. But overall, their wishes is that they just need to get healthy. Like last season was just a season where there was just too many injuries to keep players that derail their season. They're hoping that they'll stay a little bit more healthy and not have the injury bug bite them so hard like they did last season. For Colorado, their wishes and resolution is not run out of steam. We saw that last year. I think the Rapids kind of ran out of steam near the end. They're hoping that maybe this season it won't be the case. And I would also say that the other thing that maybe is and New Year wishes is that they hope that the defense will be a little bit better, especially in the latter part of the season. And it kind of helps when they, of course, got the two Cincinnati defender and Wanziam and Murphy, though really short up that defense that was very patchy. But at the same time, I think you could also say another New Year wish for the Rapids will definitely be hopefully Zach Steffen would not be as bad as he was in his first season because the under nine number the, doesn't lie. He was considered to be one of the worst goalkeeper when it comes to that underlying number in the league. For Columbus, their New Year wishes is simply just once again compete for a trophy again. Again, I know I'm starting getting a little generic, but when you look at this Columbus team, there's not really much that you would say that they need to wish to happen. We know this team has a good attack. Maybe the defense could be a little bit better. Maybe that's one of the wish that they could improve because that defense was a liability, especially in the second half this season, and maybe that's kind of one of the big weakness of Nancy Ball that is. But simply, their New Year wishes is that they're going to look to win more trophy and compete in every single competition. For DC United, their New Year wishes is simply getting into the playoffs and also find a good defense and goalkeeping as well. I mean that was kind of the weakness we saw last season, where the defense and goalkeeping was an absolute mess. I would say another thing that maybe the DC would have with the New Year wishes is to play a complete game. I mean, last season we saw this team was not very good when it comes to finishing up games. They've dropped way too many points last season from winning position. That's going to be something that Troy Lesesne will hope that this team would have, which is play a strong 90 minutes of game and not just play just 60 or even 45 minutes of a complete game and let things slip, especially in the second half. For FC Dallas, their New Year wishes is obviously they're hoping their back line is back to being good again, because again last season we saw a huge regression of this back line, a very unexpected regression too, because that back line for the past couple of years has always been the strong point and was one of the big reason why Dallas has been so good for the past couple of years. They're hoping that back line will be good again, because if it's not going to be good again, then we could have a repeat of what we see last season. Though again, it's been a while since Dallas has missed the playoffs back year. This is a team that doesn't miss out on the playoffs very often. For the Houston Dynamo, I mean, their New Year wishes, obviously, trying to stay healthy, but also they definitely would like to find a replacement of Hector Herrera. I mean, some people say that Ezekiel Ponce could be that player, although they're not really like kind of replacement in my opinion. I think the other thing that could be a New Year wishes is them continue to be a little bit more ambitious in terms of the signing, and that might sound crazy to say because they were kind of ambitious with some of their summer transfer signing as well. But you just feel like they need a couple more pieces to really get themselves back to where they were making that incredible run to the Western Conference Final just a couple of years ago. For Sporting KC, I mean, the easy New Year wish for Sporting KC fan is to get rid of Peter Vermees. But obviously, unless if this team just have another disastrous season and pretty much the fans pressure the front office to eventually axe Peter Vermees, I don't, it's going to take a lot for Peter Vermees to step down from his head coaching role. Though, as what we saw in terms of this off season with Jim Curtin basically was dismissed by the Philadelphia Union, which was a very surprising move. Consider even though the Union had a bad season he was not really one of the big reasons why they had a downturn. So maybe Peter Remise is not as safe as what we thought, even though it kind of feel like he's very safe with the way that even with the mediocrity that Sporting Casey has been going through for the past couple of years, he still remains in charge of the team. But I think the real wishes for this team is there's no doubt that they hope that the core will have one more good performance, and then we know this core is aging badly, and they hope that this core has one more good year in them left, because with the way that it feels like they are kind of thinking about dismantling the core, especially Johnny Russell. There's been rumor that he seems like he's could be moving on to another team. Sporting Casey want to make this count in terms of this core that they built the last couple of years to go on a good run in the playoffs, because it's kind of disappointing to see the current core that they have, and they really haven't really had a lot of success. Not even a single MLS Cup appearance. And really, it's a core that has all. It's very similar to what we saw with the Philadelphia Union. Just kind of a core that should have done much better. When it comes to performance wise. For the LA Galaxy, their New Year wishes. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's defending MLS Cup crown. I mean, we say this every time whenever a team win MLS Cup and a defending MLS Cup champion. Question is, their wishes is can they defend that crown? And there could be a case that they have the pieces to do so. I think there's no doubt that I think the other wishes for the Galaxy is to fix their defense, because while the defense were a little bit better in the postseason, it was a big vulnerability, and it's going to continue to be a vulnerability if they don't fix that defense. And so far, it seems like from what I heard, it seems like they're looking to trying to do so in the off season. But there's no doubt that we know that they have the pieces to do well, and especially with them adding more pieces into their midfield and potentially their attack as well. They're adding more fire to what already is a burning gasoline of this Galaxy team. Like, this Galaxy team is one of the most, if not the most explosive attack in the league, and a team that can definitely outscore team if they want to, and trying to repeat as MLS Cup champion next year. For LAFC, their New Year wishes. Obviously, the easiest way to say their New Year wishes is to stop the Galaxy of winning MLS Cup. I mean, it's got to be frustrating if you're an LAFC fan. It feels like that you got the spotlight into your favor the past couple of years, with you being the more dominant LA team, and then here comes the Galaxy, kind of raising themselves back from the grave, and now becoming the team that has the MLS Cup and reigns supreme in the LA market. And if there's one thing we know about the LA market, or at least I know about the LA market, is that when you're winning, yeah, you're gonna draw attention, and when you're not winning, you're not gonna draw a lot of attention, especially when you're sharing with a team in the same market. So LAFC is definitely trying to get those eyes back in their favor, and there's no doubt that this is a team that once again is going to try to challenge the Galaxy for that MLS Cup crown once again. And I think maybe you can even hear LAFC fans saying, "Well, yeah, the Galaxy won last year simply because we were there when we play them in the playoffs. If we were to play them in the playoffs, we probably would have won that game. But at the same time, we never know if that, of course, is the case. For Inter Miami, their New Year wishes. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's simply not only winning an MLS Cup, even though again it sounds very generic, but really just compete for every single trophy that they have. Now, I will say that if I don't want to go generic, it's got to be fixing that defense. I mean, again, this is a team that, like the Galaxy, it's very similar, very explosive attack, but at the back it is leaky at best. And unfortunately, while the Galaxy defense got better as the season goes along, Miami defense just kind of stayed the same. It's just been the same old defense that at time was leaky at best, giving up a lot of set piece goals as well last season. That's going to be something that they, of course, will have to fix. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're planning to do so, because again, they've been rumored to sign a couple more attacking pieces. I mean, it's good to continue to add the supporting cast in terms of Messi and Friend, but you also got to remember they need a defense, and the fact that they don't have that's got to be a concern for Miami fans. Consider again, last season was an epic failure. I don't care if they broke the points record as it did last season. The fact that that was supposed to be a team of destiny, and a team that had all the script in their favor, and and to come out flat like that in the first round, they need to redeem themselves, especially if this is potentially Messi's last season with Inter Miami. And the same goes with the league itself. They know that they're gonna try their best to milk this cow as much as possible, because once that cow is being milked, yeah, that's when the attention is gonna go away from this league once again. Now, for Minnesota, their New Year wishes, get a number six. I mean, if I had to go with a position, I'm just hoping they can get a DP number six and fix the midfield and also the defense. That was kind of the biggest weakness we saw last season for this Minnesota team. I mean, while the defense was very good in the latter part of the season, the midfield was still at times a big question mark, and it's been a question mark throughout last season as well. I'm really hoping that they, of course, fix that. I mean, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't fix that in the summer transfer window, but now they'll have a chance to do so in the winter transfer window, especially if they can open one of the DP spot, because I think Timu Puki um potentially could not be will not be back with this team, and if he is back with this team, his contract, I think, is going to be up in the middle of next season as well. For Montreal, their New Year wishes, just really get things under control off the field. We know how much of a mess it is off the field with this Montreal team. I mean, on the field, the product is still okay, although again, I feel like Laurent Courtois, if he is able to get the resources to build the team, they can get this Montreal team back to what we saw a couple of years ago under Wilfried Nancy. But in order to do so, they got to sort out their off the field issue, and they got to also sort out the front office. I would say it's not really off the field situation, but more like just the front office. They need to sort that out. And from what I heard, it seems like they're trying to do so, especially maybe looking for a new sporting director to replace the recently departed, well, not recently departed, but been departed Olivier Renier in that spot. Yeah, if they get that sorted out, and if they hope that Joey Saputo can actually decide to to spend money, and that's a big if. I mean, asking him spending money is like asking John Fisher to spend money on the Quakes. But yeah, if they can sort that out, then there could be a chance that they could get themselves back to where they were a couple of years ago, and Laurent Courtois will have the resources to play the Nancy ball that Montreal wants to play. For Nashville, their New Year wishes obviously is to just not only begin the rebuild on a good note, but just to clear out all these bad contract that they have. They have a lot of bad contract. They don't have a lot of flexibility. They're kind of almost similar in the same situation that Toronto found themselves last season. So that's going to be something that they're hoping to trying to clear up, so that heading into the next couple of seasons, they can definitely start building back the foundation. There's no doubt that Nashville was heading into a new era. They're departing from the Gary Smith style play, and BJ Cowhen is trying to implement his new style, kind of more of a dominant possession style compared to what we see Gary Smith team being more of a counter attack and more of a kind of bunker deep kind of style that we've seen over the years. But yeah, there's no doubt that their main wish is trying to get this rebuilt on a in a good way, and also not to mention shred some really bad contract that they currently have, and they actually have done so, at least in some stores. They at least shred the contract of Shaq Moore by trading him away, and that's a huge one, considering he was on a really expensive contract, and that at least gives a little bit more flexibility for Nashville to work around in terms of the cap space. For New England, their wishes obviously is hope that Caleb Porter magic in the second year is going to happen. So we know what it is with Caleb Porter when it comes to him coaching. The first season might be absolutely terrible, but the second year, that's where the resort has happened. We saw it during his time with Columbus. Second year, they made a big jump of eventually winning MLS Cup. We saw it when he was with the Timbers. By the time the second and third year, they started to be competitive. That's what New England hope that they're going to be, and they do have the talent to do so. I mean, they have one of the best number 10 in Carlos Hill. He can be a difference maker, but they definitely need more than that. And also taking contract track from Quake's player. I mean, that's definitely a choice to do. I mean, again, we talk about this narrative of New England and the Quakes. Seems like they love to trade each other pieces, and I'll talk about that about the Quakes in just a bit as well. But yeah, there's no doubt that for New England, I think their wishes is that they hope that second year narrative of Caleb Porter seems to do well in his second year comes true. And not to mention, I think the other wishes is to stay healthy. And it's the same thing for Cincinnati. They suffered so many injuries last season. The last 2 years, they have just been injured to hell and back. They're hoping to stay healthy so that they can fulfill their true potential. For the New York Red Bulls, their New Year wishes is proved last year wasn't a fluke. So last year, that incredible run that they had, to MLS Cup, not really doing it that so metro moment until the very end. That was very impressive to see. Now the question is, can they do it again this year? And it's not going to be easy because we know the Eastern Conference is absolutely stacked, and we also have talked about where teams go on a miracle run before. The very next year, they kind of suffer a bit of a letdown. The New York Red Bulls are hoping that that's not going to be the case. They're not going to be back to that typical narrative of them just making it to the playoffs to extend the longest active playoff streak that any team has had, only to have that so metro moment happen in the first round of the playoffs. For NYCFC, their New Year wishes is getting themselves back to being the top contender in the East, and hope that the youth movement will continue to develop. There's a lot of young guys on this team, and we know that last season it was kind of what I expected with NYCFC with a lot of youth players on this team. There's going to be that consistency problem. Like youth player, they're going to have times where they're going to get themselves in good run of form, and then times where they're not playing very well and in a bad run of form. It's all about continuing to develop those young guys and hope they find a consistency, especially with the new head coach that they have. We'll see if they can bring that as well. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a New Year wish. Although again, as I mentioned with the head coach, that's probably also one of the big New Year wish for a lot of NYCFC fans. They still haven't had a coach, although there's been rumors that they're looking to bring one relatively soon. For Orlando City, their New Year wishes is to simply find a replacement for Facundo Torres. I mean, that's not going to be easy. I mean, what Facu Torres left this team, that's a huge gap to hold. They're hoping that maybe Martino Ojeda can at least fill that spot again. He at times play almost in that similar role that Facu Torres played for a bit, but there's no doubt that they're looking for replacement, especially the money that they of course got. They're gonna try to reinvest it, and we talk about many times when teams sell off a big name player for a big amount of money. That's great, of course, for recognition in terms of you being contribute what MLS want teams to do, which is sell off their talent for a huge amount of money. But it's all about reinvesting it, and more times or not, we've seen teams have not done that very well, and Orlando City's got to be careful when it comes to that too. They need to reinvest in the right way. And again, anytime when you're trying to replace a star player, it is a very tough task to do. But for a team that always have aspiration of being one of the contender in the East, they need to do so, because if they don't, they probably won't make as much noise as what we saw last season in the playoffs. Consider again the East is going to get even tougher than ever before. For the Philadelphia Union, so their New Year wishes, obviously, I'm pretty sure a lot of Union fans' New Year wishes is simply ask their own owner to step down, because there's been a lot of hatred toward the ownership group for the Union, especially with the dismissal of Jim Curtin. But I think their real New Year wishes is simply just kind of go through a bit of a transitional period. Hopefully, they can show some improvement during this transitional year. I mean, they're in a spot where they still have some of these core pieces from O, especially on the attacking it, and as well the likes of Gastek and Uru. They're still there as well, and with their new number 9 Ty Baribo as well. He's gonna be guy to watch after the incredible season that he had. Kind of completely came out of nowhere kind of season that he had last year. So there's no doubt that the future isn't as murky as some Union fans predicted, but there's no doubt that they're hoping to bridge that transitional period, especially with the way that they continue to develop some good young talented player in their team. They're going to be a competitive team again, and are looking to turn the page of the disappointment that they had last season, and right that well heading into this season. For the Portland Timbers, their New Year wishes simply is just find some consistency and also find a defense. Again, the consistency was a big problem last season, but That's what happened when you when you have Phil Neville coaching your team. We saw it in Inter Miami where when things are going well, yeah, it's going well. When things are not going well, oh, you better believe it's not going well. They're gonna go on a losing run. That's gonna be something that I think they're hoping to do, and I don't know if they can do so because again, that's just kind of the narrative that Phil Neville team has had. But again, their biggest wishes is obviously their defense, and unfortunately, as I mentioned in the moving forward series about the Timbers, they don't really have a lot of flexibility in that spot either. So as much as they really want to change it, they kind of stuck with that, and they just gotta hope that defense would maybe improve this season because last season, as what we have seen for the past couple of years, it's been a hot mess in terms of how bad that Timbers defense has been for the last couple of years. For Real Salt Lake, their New Year wishes is hope that Chicharito get himself back into form. I mean, again, I've said it many times already about it is definitely something that needs to be studied of what in the world happened to Chicharito in the second half of the season. But if he can get himself back into the form, and especially with RSL with the current core player that they have, I think this team could get themselves back into contention as well. It's definitely looking well for them. But in order to do so, their biggest New Year wishes is hope that Chicharito get himself back into form. For the new boys, San Diego FC. So obviously with an expansion team, it's very easy to talk about what their New Year wishes is, and that's simply just had a respectable expansion season. I mean, I know that recent expansion team with the bar that they set of them making the playoffs and doing very well in the first season has really maybe put a little pressure on San Diego to perform, especially when they got a big piece like Chucky Lozano, and it feels like they're kind of almost going the same route as what LAFC did when they came into the league by getting a big name Mexican player and then build within, and we saw how successful that they have. Now the question is, I wonder what's going to be the Diego Rossi of San Diego FC because well, Carlos Vela was the big showpiece player in that LAFC expansion season. We also found out that year Diego Rossi was also a big showpiece as well, and he turns out to play very well and was one of the key factor of why that team made it to the playoffs. San Diego would definitely need a player like that. And right now, when I look at the roster, I mean, I don't really see kind of a Diego Rossi kind of player. I might be wrong though. Again, when it comes to expansion team, it is very hard to predict how they're gonna do, and it's always hard for even the coaching staff to predict what they do because while you build the roster and if you're the sporting director of the team to build the roster and you think that it can work out, you just never know when the season begin. That's why expansion seasons are always very fun to see because when there's unknown, there could be some good storyline of either it's gonna go so well like what we saw with St. Louis, or it can go absolutely horrendous like what we saw with FC Cincinnati. And for this San Diego team, looking at the roster that they had, it's kind of almost near the middle where I can definitely see some promise that it could go well, but I can also see it can go badly. Especially, I think maybe a lot more people are leaning toward the go badly part because the head coach that they currently have, Mikey Veras, he came from the Greg Berhalter tree, and yeah, that if he's gonna implement the Greg Berhalter system, which people don't know, but when Greg Berhalter implemented his system with the Columbus Crew, that was actually relatively successful. Now, did it lead to MLS Cup? No, but it did lead to some success and being them in the playoffs. So maybe that's what San Diego FC fans are hoping to do. So, but that was like a decade ago. The league has really changed ever since. So I don't know if that style of play still kind of worked out. And that maybe is the same I can say about the Chicago Fire as well. If Greg Berhalter himself is going to implement that style, will it work in the modern era that we've seen right now in MLS? For the San Jose Earthquakes, so the easy New Year wish is obviously tell John Fisher to f off, but realistically, it's not gonna happen. I mean, as much as I know all Quakes fans, including myself, want to see John Fisher to sell the team, it's not gonna happen. I mean, if the Oakland A's fans have demanded him to sell the team and he refused to do so and failed to do that, I don't see how Quakes fans can I don't have a lot of hope that Quakes fans would do it. If the best case scenario is that eventually he kind of got tired of the Quakes and just say, you know what, I'm just gonna sell the team. But no matter what pressure it is, it just feels like he probably is not gonna sell the team unless if we might see the Quakes do something similar to what the Galaxy did, which is a protest to demand him to axe the team. But I think the one simple wish I have with this Quakes team is just can you please sign players that is not from the New England Revolution? I mean, I know that Bruce Arena has a lot of connection to that, and he's trying to create almost New England Revolution like to in this squad, and that team was relatively successful as well. And that there's no doubt that he's hoping that Hernan Lopez is going to be that Carlos Hill kind of player. For some Quakes fan wondering why they haven't even got their best player in Carlos Hill into this Quakes team. Well, the reason why is they already have a decent number 10 in Hernan Lopez. I mean, last season it was shown that he was worth the mission. And then if you also have it, Christian Espinoza continue to be a dangerous weapon on the wing area. All that is missing, I think, is definitely a number 9. That's going to be an area that they're looking for. And for a while, they were linked with Brandon Vasquez. Seems like that probably not gonna happen. But yeah, there's no doubt that my wishes is just simply not sign players simply for the New England Revolution. And I think the other big simple wish for Quakes fan is not only make it to the playoffs, but can we please have a home playoff game at PayPal Park? I think everyone Quakes fan are dying to see a home playoff game. It's been now over a decade since PayPal Park has opened in 2015, and yet that stadium still have not hosted a home playoff game. That has to be the longest drought that any team has had that I can remember that have not hosted a home playoff game, and that includes the Chicago Fire too, because I know the Chicago Fire, and last time when they made it to the playoffs in 2017, they did host a home playoff game in that. Unfortunately, they lost that home playoff game to the New York Red Bulls, but they still hosted. Quakes have not done so since 2015, and I think it's about time that drought needs to come to an end as well. For the Seattle Sounders, their New Year wishes, obviously, they would like to get themselves a good number 9, and it seems that their wishes have already been fulfilled because it seems like now Jesus Ferreira is on the way of coming to this team. So I guess maybe my next wish I could say is maybe get more decent another decent playmaker out there. I mean, not saying that Albert Rusnak is bad, but if this team want to get themselves to be an elite level, I think they could do better than Albert Rusnak. Now, obviously, I don't think they're gonna get rid of him, especially the DP contract that he's on. But they're desperately looking for that playmaker. Obviously, you might ask, well, what about Pedro de la Vega? That's the next wishes I will say about the Sounders is they hope Pedro de la Vega can stay healthy, but uh, for more than just 3 matches. I mean that we knew that was an issue when he came into this league. He has had injury issue, and when you have a guy that has had a lot of injury issue, yeah, it's hard to try to correct that, and I won't be surprised that could flare up again. But if that is the case, this is where Seattle really need to find another playmaker, almost looking for a Ladero kind of type of replacement. Because as much as they try to do so with Rusnak, it just hasn't really quite come out to plan. For St. Louis, their New Year wishes, not only getting themselves back in to playoff contention, but to show that the first year wasn't simply a fluke. And with this new regime that they're currently on, and especially how good the team performed in the latter part last season, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of momentum heading into this year that they could do so well as well. But as we've seen many times before, just because the team does well in the previous season doesn't mean it can carry into next season as well. So that's going to be something that I think St. Louis is hoping that won't be the case. Hopefully, that good run that they had in the second half of the season continue the next season, and also continue to prove that the first season wasn't just simply a fluke. For Toronto FC, their New Year wishes. This is where it gets tough because for Toronto, it's kind of almost the same as I said last year, where it's the beginning stage of the rebuild. They're hoping that they can make some progress, and also not to mention name a new head coach as well. Keep in mind, Jim Curran is still available there. I have heard rumors that maybe Jim Curran could go to Toronto as well. I think that would be an excellent hire, and that can at least soften the pain that TFC fans has to deal with John Herman basically forced to resign because of the what situation that he was involved with the Canadian national team a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's no doubt that if they get the right head coach hire, and not to mention hoping that the two Italians will perform well, there will be some progress, and that's kind of the New Year wish that TFC fans want to see with this team. And then finally for Vancouver, their New Year wishes is kind of the same thing. They need a new head coach as well. They're hoping to do so. Now, unfortunately, unlike other team, Vancouver has been very quiet in terms of that department. So yeah, they're hoping that they don't do something similar to what Minnesota did last season, which is wait for a long time before they name their head coach and aren't able to do so. So they're stuck with an interim head coach for a bit before finally naming it in the middle of the season. I think the other wish I think Vancouver fans will say is just hopefully the sale of the team will be successful, because while it's, Whitecaps fans are happy the fact that the current regime is willing to sell the team, and the current regime that they currently have, a lot of Whitecaps fans are not happy with them, especially with how cheap it is. But it is a scary proposition that if this team does not get sell, what's going to happen after that? Relocation is definitely one of the threat that is, but there's no doubt that Whitecaps fans are hoping that it doesn't come to that stage. I don't think it's going to come to that stage. I don't think we're going to have a save the caps kind of campaign like what we talked about with the Columbus Crew a couple of years ago. But there's no doubt it's kind of daunting, especially the sale process and how much they're asking for. And as I even mentioned, with the Canadian market being relatively weak, I don't know if anyone's going to pony up for that amount of fee. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at every MLS team in terms of their New Year wishes and resolution. And as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And if you have your own New Year wishes and resolution for your respective team, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.